Hello everybody, how are you doing? Today we are going to be doing another little GTM data layer tutorial, and today I'm pretty excited because we're going to be tackling the immense subject that is enhanced e-commerce. So those of you who are familiar with my videos will know this site very well now. It's a fake food site, and our marketing manager keeps giving us bloody things to do. Such is life, ladies and gents, but hopefully we can get them done quickly. So this is my website, and I have 3 food items, and my marketing manager now wants to know, he wants to implement enhanced e-commerce on these pages, but not enhanced e-commerce in the fact that he wants to track transactions, but he wants to track product views. So product views are recorded every time someone visits a product detail page, which is this type of page. And the reason you want to track product detail views is because it allows you to do things like assess how well your brands are doing, assess how well products in certain price ranges are doing, how different product variants are doing, how different product categories are doing, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Obviously, there is a lot more to enhanced e-commerce, but this is what we're going to be doing. Something else I should say is that we're going to be using a scenario here which is slightly different to a normal situation. We're going to assume that the developers have already put a data layer in place onto this website. But the data layer is not exactly what we'd want in order to do auto tagging within Google Tag Manager, because when you use Google Tag Manager you can use Google's data layer format, and if you put that on the site, I'm just going to show it to you. Enhanced e-commerce GTM. Here we go. So normally, if you were going to do enhanced e-commerce with GTM and you wanted to measure a product detail view, you would have to get the devs to push this kind of information to the data layer. All right. So I'm going to assume, for the moment, that maybe we were trying to do this in a bit of a rush, and the marketing manager wants us to track stuff tomorrow, so we have to use the data layer that's in place right now. So what is the data layer? Well, if we look at the code on a product page, this is the data layer that devs have put in place. So as you can see, the structure of this one, I'm just going to copy these two side by side so you can see them. Oh, and the format's gone a bit weird. Let's see if I can sort that out very quickly. All right, that'll have to do. It's not perfect, but for the sake of quickness. So up here we have our data layer. So at the moment our data layer has a page type product, and it's got a product object, and within that object we've got 5 variables: the ID, the name, the SKU, the brand, and the price. And that's the same on each of these products. So you can see the name is changing there. This is the roast chicken page, and this is the sausage and mash page. The brand is Google in all these cases. To make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to make this into Farmer John. All right, Farmer John is cooking us the roast chicken. So there we go, there's our data layer. But you can see that what Google or GTM is expecting is this. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to quickly open up GTM, into my tags, Google base tag, not in there. I'm going to go more settings, e-commerce, enable e-commerce features, and use data layer. So if you tick this use data layer, then that is telling GTM that if it ever finds a data layer, information in the data layer that starts with e-commerce and looks like this, then it will automatically fire the enhanced e-commerce code for you. And there's different ones. You can measure product impressions. There's the data layer for that, and product clicks, like that, and so on and so forth. So this is probably the optimum way of doing things because, like I said, it's very simple. You just tick this button. But we're not in that situation. And as you know on this channel, I like to make things difficult for myself because, do you know what? In the real world, when you do these implementations, things tend not to be straightforward. There's always things that are out of control, out of your control. And in this case, the thing that's out of our control is the data layer. Because let's say the devs have a 1 month release cycle and therefore they can't change the data layer for another month, but you need the data now. So to recap, we're going to do tracking of this. So how do we do this? How do we, instead of using this code, how do we use our style of data, which is this, and change it to this? Okay, so that's almost what we're going to be doing. All right, so first up, here's what we're going to do. So you're going to head into Google Tag Manager. I'm going to leave this off for the moment, just so you see what I'm doing. Discard changes. And we're going to create some variables here. All right, so to do this, the first thing I need to do is I need to set up all my variables so that they come into GTM so I can use them. So I'm going to use my naming convention that I always use, dl.product.name. Essentially what I'm doing here is I'm creating variables for each of my data points that I have in the data layer so that they get picked, well, I should say data object. So the data object is the thing on the page and they're pulling them into GTM. Data object, data layer, same sort of thing anyway. Don't worry about that, it's the same thing, just confusing you. All right, so we've got the product name, I've got the product ID. This is a bit of a pain setup, but it's a bit repetitive, but it's just one of the things we have to do as consultants / gods. Gods of GTM will be very familiar with this process. You know, when you're a god, it's sometimes things get a little bit dull, but that's just the way it is. The end results are not dull, I can tell you that. Of course, if you're very skilled, you can you could have set this all up for your client before and just export it from a container that you already made and import it, and that would set everything up for them. In fact, that's a good idea, and that's usually what I do, but I'm demonstrating here. All right, so what have we got? We got ID, name, SKU, brand, and price. ID, name, SKU, brand. So the one thing we haven't got is price. Just going to copy this again. dl.product.price, bish, bash, bosh. There we go. All right, I'm a massive fan of testing as I go along, so I'm going to preview this, and I'm going to refresh my product page, and hopefully now, if I head over to the variables tab, we can see that product ID 2, product name, roast chicken, we can see all our data is being correctly picked up. If you have product 2. So this is the data layer, and you can see that is being correctly parsed into GTM. Excellent. So step 1 completed. But remember, our main aim is to create something like this. We're trying to send this data to Enhanced Ecommerce. So we've got a little bit more to go, I'm afraid, guys, a little bit more to go. Here comes the fun stuff. All right, so I'm going to create another variable. I'm going to call it L dot, which stands in my mind for logic, EE for Enhanced Ecommerce, and productDetailView, because this is the productDetailView code we're going to be doing. Okay, now this gets a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create some custom JavaScript that reads those variables we set up earlier. And because I'm being lazy, I already have it all typed out neatly here because I don't want to type it out. So let's have a look at what's going on here. So you can see now this mirrors very closely this. In fact, it is identical. I've just left out the action field because that is optional, but everything else here is the same. You see we've got a product array, and within that we have a single product. We have name, ID, price, category, brand, and variant, which is exactly this: name, ID, price, brand, category, variant. And you'll notice there that I'm now using those variables that I set up. So dl.productName, if you remember when we looked in the data layer, Those are the variables we just set up. So DL product name, roast chicken, is going to be inserted into this area. For those that don't know, the double curly braces means a variable is following. So before this runs, this whole thing will be replaced with that variable name. And the same for all of these. We've got price, we've got type. Now, category, this is actually optional. And my product, if you noticed in my data layer, I don't actually have, that's not the right one, this one, I don't actually have a category, which is a problem, and it's not a problem. I mean, it's a problem in the sense that if we wanted to break down products by which category was performing best, then we can't do that. But if we wanted, but remember, we're kind of trading off here speed, right? We're trying to get something implemented as fast as we can based on the data that we have in place. So if this is the case for you, then we just leave out category for the moment. It's optional anyway. Or actually, probably to be a little more clever about this, I am going to put in unknown. Okay, just so we've got some data in the category field and it doesn't get too confusing. Brand, now I actually called, my data was called brand. Remember, if we see here, we've got DL product brand, Farmer John. And variant, well, again, this is kind of similar to category. There's no real variant here. I mean, I might use the SKU code here. So let's put in SKU like that. All right, so that is good to go. We're going to save that. And I should just point out, actually, just in case people don't know, so all custom JavaScript has to be enclosed within its own function. It's just the way it works. If you hover over this icon, you can see that they've described that there. But essentially, we're creating an e-commerce data object from the data we have in the data layer, and then this function returns that data. So this variable will now be set to all of this, and I'm going to prove that to you. Let's do another preview. Test as you go, best way. All right, let's have a look. So there we go. Now our L.ee.productDetailView, catchy I know, is set to this thing, and this thing is, it's a bit squished up, but that thing is what we just created, and you can see that the name is correctly populated, the ID is correctly populated, the price is in there, category unknown because we don't have that data in the data layer, the brand Farmer John, and the variant 03. And if we go now to another product, let's go to pasta bake, see what's going on there. And you can see the same thing as here. We've got the name pasta bake, ID. So now we've got this variable on all pages, and we didn't have to get the devs to do anything for us. You know, we would like it in this format. We didn't have it in that format in the data layer as it was. So we created a variable in GTM to do some manipulation and turn it into this kind of data. So what's next? What's next? All right, so the next step is we want to send this data to Google Analytics whenever we are on a product page. So there's various ways you can work out if you're on a product page. Sometimes you will have your URLs will look something like this, /product, and then you can just create a rule to look for products in the URL. I don't like that method just because if the URL structure changes, you are screwed and things stop working. Another way you might do it is look for the existence of a product ID on the page. So that would be one way to do it. And another way to do it would be to use this page type. I think this is the best way, in my personal opinion, to have a page type of product on the page already, so that I could create a rule that says if dl.pageType is product. So I'll show you that now. I'll show you two methods here. I'll create a trigger, new trigger. Now again, I use my convention, starts with P, and I'm going to product page, or product viewed, let's call that. That's a nice trigger. And this is going to be a page view. I'm going to fire it on some pages, and page type equals product. All right, so that would be one way to do it, because we know whenever, from our data layer, we know whenever we're on a product page, page type equals product. Makes sense? Perfect. I'm going to assume that to make things a little bit harder, we don't have this variable in place. You don't have this in place, you've only got this. So how do we get around that? Well, in that case, you do product ID. I would probably do, how would I do it? I would do matches regex, and I'd put dot plus. Now, the dot plus means there has to be at least one or more character. So if product ID is blank or doesn't exist, then this would fail. So let's have a look at that, see if that works. Product viewed is there, all right, we can test this in a bit. I'm going to leave it for a second, but I'm going to head over to my tags now, where we have the base tag. And if you remember right at the beginning of this, I showed you the e-commerce settings. I enabled that, and before we had ticked use data layer. Okay, that use data layer is a bit ambiguous because we are using the data layer, we're just not using the data layer in the format here that Google expects. So for that reason, you shouldn't tick that, and instead, I'm going to set, oh no, what am I doing? All right, I'll explain what I've done wrong, but in general, we're now going to select our variable. So remember, this is the variable that contains the e-commerce code in the format that GA expects it, like that. Okay, so we've almost done one step removed. Rather than placing the code on the page, we've had some other code on the page, we've read it into GTM, we've manipulated it into a format that GA wants, or GTM wants, and then GTM will be responsible for sending it across to GA. Now, where I said I went wrong is because if I put it in here, it would still work, but when we add other e-commerce features such as product impressions, product, there we go, it's early guys, it's early, product click-through rate, then this wouldn't work because we wouldn't be able to select each of those in turn. So what we need to do is we need to create a tag for each of these things. That's one of the downsides of doing it this way. If you have the data layer, you just have to tick that. The way we're doing it, we have to be a bit more, it's a bit harder. It's a bit harder, basically. But again, that's just the way it is. So let's do that now. I'm going to create a tag. GOA stands for Google Analytics, and this is an event, and this is product viewed. All right, so tag configuration. It's a classic Google Analytics tag. The tracking ID we have, as a good boys and girls, we've got it set in a constant variable, and we're going to send this as an event. And the event category, e-commerce. Again, you can put whatever you want in here, but I like to keep things nice and neat. Product viewed. The label, well, let's put the product name in, seeing as we've got it handy. The product name is in our data layer already. There we go. And the value, well, let's, do you know what? I was going to suggest putting the price in, but value has to be a, value is meant to be an integer. So our price is actually a float. It's got a decimal point. So I'm going to leave that blank for the moment. Non-interaction hit true. Make sure you set this, otherwise your bounce rate will go weird. And here's where we go to the e-commerce, enable e-commerce features, and read from that value. There we go. As for the trigger, well, we've already got our trigger here, product viewed. Let's save that. There we go. Now, the one thing I'm not so sure about is whether our trigger will work, so I'm going to test that. Again, we go to the preview page, head over here, refresh, and let's have a look what happens. So there we go. Our product viewed has fired, and you can see the e-commerce data variable is all set nice and lovely as we'd expected it to be. Perfect. Now, obviously, just need to check that this isn't going to fire on pages such as the home page. So let's have a look at this one. So here we go. So this is a problem because our product detail viewed has fired, even though it's home page. So we're going to get some bad information in here. Now, to be you know, this is not what we want. So clearly this is not working, right? This regular expression. So this is what we need to change. So our trigger's gone wrong, which is why it's always good to test as you go along. So product detail view, let's have a look. Product ID matches regex. Blah. All right, so something is wrong here. Okay, so I'm going to try adding another thing. Does not equal undefined. There we go. So it's got to be one or more characters, but we don't want it to be equal to undefined because GTM sets variables to undefined when they are not set. So let's have a look at this and see whether this is fix things. Give a quick refresh. All right, there we go. So we've got it. It seems to have worked. Let's have a look at the roast chicken. And there we go, it's fired. So well done, guys. We're done. We are done. So we've now got the data going correctly into GA. The final thing you need to do is you need to go into your view and you need to go into e-commerce settings and you need to turn, not only do you need to turn e-commerce on, but you also need to then turn on enhanced e-commerce reporting. And that is it. So once you've done that, I've been clicking around now for a little while. So data may be in GA, but sometimes it takes a little while. So let's see, select today's date. And where you'd find the reports are down here in e-commerce, product performance. Right, so there's nothing here yet. Oh, no, there is, I lie. So shopping behavior, on the shopping behavior tab, we can already see we've started to get some data in, which is fabulous. So we've got pasta bake. Undefined has come in because that's when we sent the data from the home page accidentally, so that was a bug. Another reason why you shouldn't be testing on a live account. You should be doing data into your staging account, staging GA property. But just to demonstrate, so we now got pasta bake and we can see how many times that has been viewed once. All this other information, so how many times the list was viewed, how many times it was added to cart, removed cart, checkout, all of that other stuff is will only appear when you start implementing all these other things. But you can use exactly the same method I've just showed you to do this other stuff. I'm just keeping it simple and just doing product views for the moment. And we can see we've got all the data. We've got product SKUs, product category here. Is unknown, so all of our product views fall into that. If you have a category variable, obviously this would be a little bit better. And product brand, there we go. We can see how many people like Google products, how many people like Farmer John products. So that is it. That is a brief overview of what you can do to set up enhanced e-commerce in literally 10 minutes. If you have some sort of data layer on the page, the data layer doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you've got a product ID, product name, you're good to go. And of course, you can go one step further and scrape the data off the page. I will be showing you that in another video. So there it is. Enjoy your day, guys.